guys, welcome back to the BJJ101 STOREROOM podcast. Today we have again another awesome guest of Sam Capewell. So Sam's a student here at Gaha Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we always start with like a fairly generic question. I was talking to you before we started, like just talk about like your upbringing a little bit, like the origins of yourself, like whatever you did as a kid, like if you did any other athletics or sports and stuff like that, and what you do for work and that type of thing, and just introduce yourself a little bit.
So, grew up in southwest Queensland, out in a small country town called Charleville. Only about 3,500 people there, but one of four boys. Grew up on a property, plenty of room, sport mad. Anything that was available, we basically played, from footy, soccer, AFL, anything that was on we were into. Went away to boarding school at the age of 15 into Ipswich Grammar. Did 2 years there, dabbled in rugby union and that sort of thing. That was my first ever exposure to grappling. We had a judo coach come in to do some sort of throws and stuff, just rugby wise, and just work on some grappling techniques stuff there, which was interesting, opened my mind up. I'd never done any tackle tech or anything before that. But after school, played a lot of footy around Toowoomba area, and then made it down to Ipswich. Was at the Jets for a year there. Again, lots of grappling there as well. We had Bumper O'Farrell, Brett O'Farrell. He Tackle Tech Australia, I think his business is. He came in and actually did a bit. I know he does jiu-jitsu and has done for a while, and that was another little introduction to the grappling and stuff. Basically finished up that after that year in footy. After that, had a go at the American football. So just around here in Brisbane. I only played a season, very sporadically. Got a bit tough with the strict training times and the strict game times. I had a kid at the time and working my own business as well, which was sort of pulling me in two different directions. But did a year there, and then finally came in and gave jiu-jitsu a go, basically. Cool.
There's a lot of there's a lot of questions that can be made out of what you said. Like, for example, when did you do American football still exists here in Australia?
Yeah. It's not as popular as rugby league or rugby union or anything like that, but it's still happens here. It's common-ish, I guess.
There's quite a little competition that goes on in Brisbane. I couldn't tell you how popular or anything like that, but there's definitely I know there's definitely some players that are getting picked up for the college system in the US from our competition here in Brisbane.
There was a guy that didn't make the NRL recently that had like $150 million contract.
So he was an under-20s player from the South, and now he plays for Philadelphia.
Oh wow.
He's a giant guy, 160 kilograms, like a huge, massive dude.
So you both played the same rugby, right?
So how old were you when you went to IGS?
So I was 15.
15, So I went a little bit older. Did your parents send you there? Did you get some type of bursary for rugby and stuff? Or
so we were because we were regional as well. So that you get your scholarship for regional and then sporting scholarship as well.
Awesome, So I have pretty much the same experience, except I'm more of a rival school. I went to Toowoomba Grammar for exactly the same type of thing. Played rugby union, all that type of thing. But that's super interesting. So from 15, and you were there for 2 years? Okay, awesome. So year 11 and 12, you're at IGS.
Exactly.
Cool. Did your brothers go there as well? Or?
So all four of us had been there.
Awesome.
So I'm the third, and then I had one after me as well.
And they all played rugby union there as well? Okay, wow. Like most of the GPS schools, which is the group of schools that the IGS is involved in, has a very, very strong history of producing some of the best rugby players in the nation. Whether they go into the NRL or they go and play for the Wallabies or Super Rugby clubs, there's many, many, many guys that are getting picked up from regional towns, like you're saying, from even guys coming from Fiji and all sorts of places that are they go into pretty much like a professional kind of regime for rugby or athletics or weightlifting and everything, and it's pretty serious because there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of people that donate money. The people that are involved in the schools and stuff like that. It's a huge kind of industry type thing for the school where they get more funding if they win the competition and stuff like that. So it's a massive.
Are these group of schools like in small towns normally? Or not necessarily?
No. So they're all closer to Brisbane. There's a few that are like more regional, like Toowoomba and Ipswich Grammar and stuff like that. But most of them are all in Brisbane. And I don't know when, like how they were included in that, but there's 9 main schools that are in the competition, and they've just always competed against each other. There were these private institutions and like very prestigious schools that, they pride themselves on the rugby and how well they do and what type of caliber individual they produce. They're all pretty. Most of them are all boys schools, not all of them. Like I think BGS is some mixed and BSHS and stuff. There's a few mixed, but most of them are all boys schools. Most of them, not all of them, and most of them also have a very big, industry of boarding where people send their kids from all over Australia and they stay and live at the school and then they learn and everything there. Yeah.
So are they? So for example, are they focused? Are they focused on rugby only, like on scholarships?
Not only, but it's a major part of the schools. Like there's it's just a high level institution for producing people that are going to do well in life in the world. It's a network of doctors and lawyers and all these people that have come from this school, and I think the prestige of the school, it's kind of like going to Harvard University or UQ in Australia or Sydney University. They just have a history of producing high quality people in whatever field they're doing, you know what I mean?
But for example, there will be groups of schools that will be more focused on soccer, for example, scholarships and all that.
Yeah, probably. There are some like that. Like the problem is there's lots of different sports that people excel in that they give bursaries and sponsorships and scholarships to. Like there's a lot of very, very high level cricket athletes. There's a lot of very, very high level athletic athletes. That guys that are, for example, one of the kids that I went to school with was named Matt Denny, and he competed at the Tokyo Olympics and did not too bad. Like they're giving out money for people in lots of different areas. Some people academic, some people are great musicians, some people are whatever. What they do is they just look for individuals or kids that are excelling in whatever they're doing, and they say, all right, come to our school because it makes our school look good. It elevates the prestige of the school, and it gets more
I got mine in university.
Yeah.
Intellectual, believe it or not. I pretended well, might have done well.
It was intellectual acting. Which one?
No, it was both combination, mate. But you have to keep the level of all your scores.
Yeah,
that was tough
to maintain.
Yeah,
even with a lot of athlete stuff, they have that kind of agreement where you have to maintain this grade average. If you fail anything, you can't compete in the sport, so you need to keep it. Like they have agreements, and it's pretty good for most people. A lot of people that don't have the opportunity to go and access certain level of education and access a certain level of sport or coaching and stuff, it's a great opportunity for them. For me, it was an awesome experience to go there and be put into like pretty much a professional training setting as a kid, you know what I mean? And you start to recognize, oh wow, this is actually an opportunity. I could go and do this for real, maybe play professionally if I do well, if I work hard, whatever. So it's just a good opportunity for everyone, whether it's at university and you get a degree out of it, whether it's going there and being exposed to high level of education and training. It's awesome.
This perspective of being boarding school as well, where the person's focused, because a lot of very famous soccer players at the time I saw they talking about in Brazil that the fact that they live super far away from the facilities and they have to train twice. And sometimes they cannot afford even to go back. It's too hard and keep studying. I think the boarding actually facilitates that focus on narrowing into like a sport, for example.
Yeah, 100%. And taking at the age of 15, 16 especially, I think taking someone out of the
home setting
and giving them more responsibility. You're responsible for your uniform, you're responsible for your boarding room, you're responsible for your scheduling and everything like that. just develops you as a adult.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it turns you into a man.
100%, I agree. Like, we've talked about this a lot, and like, whether it's other guys that have become, or had a history of being a good athlete, or that have become black belts and stuff in jiu-jitsu, they always had like some history of playing sport, responsibility early in life, accountability early in life, and all this stuff. And it's just like the building blocks of creating a great individual, you know what I mean? 100%. And I think like a lot of the time boarding school can help with that a lot, because you're forced to be your own person. Your mum's not here. You don't go and ask your mum, oh, can I do this, can I do that? You have to go by the rules. You have to go and brush your teeth when they tell you to. You have to go and do this and this and that, and you have to fit into the setting, but you also got to make your own decisions. And these guys are doing the wrong thing, should I do that? Maybe not, maybe I should, I don't know. You got to figure that out, and it just puts you in a position where you're actually exposed to decision making and like you're saying, like independence early on in life, rather than,
and especially coming from a town of 3,500 people in southwest Queensland, like I wasn't exposed to a whole lot of different cultures or anything like that. 100%. So coming away to a boarding school, you've got people, we had Chinese boarders, we had, people from Weipa, we had people from all different walks, and all just in one, big mixing pot. There's 100 different students, and you're all
how big was the boarding house? It was 100.
Yeah, so there's 2 boarding houses there with about 100 boarders at any one time. But you're all in the same dining hall. You're all doing activities and events and stuff together, and so just as a developmental thing, as an individual, it's just huge.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it helps a lot to develop people and just kind of like, again, introduce them to some type of independence. Toowoomba is pretty much exactly the same. I think it's a little bigger because it's a little more rural and further out, so there's even more people going there. So I think they had like 300 plus boarders. Yeah. So you can imagine, like, every day they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not I feel it. Man, this is one of the things, like my mum would talk about this. Like, I always had like a fairly big appetite, and she was like, "Oh, I'm worried about eat." Man, I ate so much food there, and it wasn't always that great. But you just eat. There's lots of it, and you eat what you can.
Used to it,
you do get used to it. But there was times where it's like, "Oh, you're gonna have salad sandwiches." I'm like, "Man, what the hell is this cup? I'm not gonna eat this, man." But you have to survive and eat what there is. And then other times there's steaks and whatever, and desserts and caramel tarts and everything. So like, it's an interesting thing. But going back to like the culture thing you said, man, I wouldn't say that I'm like super ethnic or whatever, but man, even me going there, like, it was just a lot of Anglo, because this is even more rural and they're all farmers and stuff like that. Particularly in the boarding school, there wasn't that many different cultures. So even me, I'm fairly Australian. Like, I was brought up here and born here. Like, I have some background from another culture, but like, they're like, "Oh man, you're Lebanese," and all this stuff. I'm like, "What, man? I'm not Lebanese at all. What are you guys talking about?" But they had no, like, they've never even been exposed to people of a different culture. It was so interesting and weird for me. Now, I think the good thing for me is because I was already like a big individual, I didn't receive any like bad treatment or anything like that, just because it was like a bit worrying for them. So I was a big dude. Like, I was already like probably 90 kilos when I was 16, 17, and these kids are like, 70 kilos, 65 kilos. So they're just a bit like, holy shit, this guy's massive. But it was just a funny, interesting experience. But man, I value that a lot. It was super, super cool, man. Yeah, man.
I was thinking, so people, what's the name of your brother that's play rugby professionally, Sam?
My little brother's Kurt Capewell. Yeah, he's with the Penrith Panthers this year, heading to the Broncos next year. So coming home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So that menos you're gonna bring him for having some fun here with us. Do some tackles.
He's too athletic for me.
Is he?
No, he's a super athletic guy. But yeah, I'm sure like he'd love to come and have a.
Oh, that'd be great, man. That'd be great. Actually, there's one student that trains at Gahanambo as well, that he's a brother of Paul Gallen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it'd be good to, like one day bring him and have fun,
There's always been like a heap of rugby guys that have been involved, with jiu-jitsu and grappling. Like, that's the main reason I got involved when I first started. Like, I remember watching the UFC and stuff and, thinking it was cool and everything, but I did it as like an off-season thing when I was like 14 or 15 in Adelaide. I want to do something else, so I would go and wrestle and do jiu-jitsu and stuff. And man, I think it's such a complimentary thing, particularly for rugby, just because of the nature of what it is. And it's so good for teaching you like self-awareness and your own balance and where your body is and how you move and stuff, and also how to manipulate other people. Like you were kind of introduced to judo and stuff for the same type of reason from a standing position. I think it is so beneficial, like particularly in like the contact zone of rugby, like you're saying, you're learning anatomy, you're learning how to manipulate limbs and joints and people's balance, and you're understanding how to remove their balance, or just control another human being in an effective way that's not based on strength or power, which we normally do, especially playing footy. Even for me, it's a sport based on athleticism and power. And the skills are a lot of the time secondary, depending on your position. Certain positions are more based on skill, other positions are more based on strength and power. And I think you can really improve your effectiveness, or your effectiveness on the game when you're playing high level stuff, especially by understanding just little ideas and concepts and maneuvers and things like that.
Absolutely. Like I was a front rower, 95 kilo, not a big guy.
For that position.
And my defence was my strong point, which I think it all comes back to technique. I really leant into the tackle tech stuff that I'd got to learn, and really enjoyed the mental side of it, like knowing the knowledge and the actual, breaking it down and that sort of thing, rather than just running in and trying to be stronger and bigger than everyone. I didn't have that luxury, so it was definitely a technique thing for me. And I mean, there's not an NRL team today that doesn't have a grappling coach, whether it's jiu-jitsu or judo or
something,
that come in every pre-season and run through tackle tech and everything.
I am actually surprised. I mean, I've done one season with the Broncos, and I from day one I told them, look, I can help you a little bit with grappling, but I don't know nothing about rugby. So they showed me a few things, but I don't think it was the best thing they could possibly get, because I didn't know the rules, I didn't understand the sport. So it was pretty. But I don't understand. What my point is, I don't understand why people. Because for me, this is, oh my God, why are they not doing this? They don't get Anton to do this job, man. Like I'm sometimes I feel like knocking at Broncos' door, going, man, look at this guy, man. You know what I mean? This guy is a world medalist in this, like in jiu-jitsu, man. Like in the guy done rugby, you know what I mean? Like man, let the guy go here one day.
We've actually chatted about it before.
I don't understand, man. I cannot conceive that no one is seeing. My guys, please. All right. By the way, subscribe.
I think it's interesting, like because like you're saying, a lot of the guys that are implementing their grappling teaching and stuff into rugby, wrestling, or whatever you want to call it, like some of them don't have any background in rugby at all. You know what I mean? Some of them are just judo guys, some of them are just this and
That's
this.
That's dumb. It is dumb because you can't find the perfect fitting. You know what I mean? Like it's incomplete. I would say dumb is too much.
Incomplete.
It's incomplete. Yeah.
But that's the normal evolution. Eventually, there will be guys that it's like you're saying. It'll be essential that the person has a deep understanding of rugby, that played it before, understands what's going on, and they also have a deep understanding of whatever grappling martial art, whether it be an Olympic level wrestling standard or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt or a black belt in judo, whatever. That's going to become necessary at some point. It's just a matter of time. Like you're saying, everybody is implementing some type of grappling now. Eventually, they're also going to understand rugby instead of just applying techniques.
And I mean, not that it's a plug for Bumper FL, but he's just my experience. He started out as an NRL player, and then when he started to learn the opposite end. When he finished playing, that's when he went into jiu-jitsu, and then combined them both together to now make a business. And I think he's worked with like Australian Rugby Union. He's worked with like a bunch of NRL teams and a lot of local teams as well. So I think I learned like a really good way there because he'd come from both ways. And you kind of
improve yourself. You can always try to improve yourself. That's what I was trying from before they came here, and then I said, look, I need to understand the rules. They took me to the club, they showed me the rules, I start to understand the rules. You can improve, obviously, but if the more knowledge you get of both areas and put it together, the best will be.
I don't know where that comes from, because I did like a workshop with Toowoomba Grammar, like I went back there and did a whole workshop with them, and they filmed everything and all that type of thing, and they all enjoyed it and everything. But I don't know what the reason is. I think it's just like this evolution time. Like it's like it hasn't. People haven't all committed and dived head in yet, but like they're like, oh yeah, it's necessary. But I think eventually, like it's just a matter of time. Eventually, it's going to become a necessary portion of this because, like you're saying, sometimes you're gonna, and that's what they talked about when they're there. Sometimes they didn't have the same big bodies that they can just be overly aggressive with. So you got to adjust. And like, all right, these are the athletes you have, and the athletes that you have, you got to learn how to be effective with. And if they learn different skills that are going to help with, you know, the success in the game, and they're still, you know, they're not competitive on an athletic level, whatever. Well, it's important that you have this area of, you know, rugby covered. And look, my opinion is, again, it's just like a matter of time until it becomes a necessary thing. Anyway,
when I think with like the thing that I observed as well, there's a ego thing part of that, because they sometimes, for example, what happened to me, they organize classes so that the technical the people in the technical commission, I guess, you know, the coaches, they would come here, they would do a class, and then they try to remember things and go to the club because they want to be the guys. Man, pathetic, right? That happens in many situations. And I found this, this is almost like, it's so dumb, you know what I mean? But it's all about how you want to be perceived and la la la. But that takes away the opportunity to get a specialist, you know what I mean, and put him in contact, you know. And I think that people have this problem, and like, man, if the guy is a specialist, man, and you trust the guy, build a rapport with the guy, man. Once you trust the guy, let the guy work, and then give feedback. Obviously, the guy has to know what to do, but don't try to take this doesn't work. You know?
I think they just want to do like a shortcut thing, like you're saying, and they also just want to like be, they're the one that's doing the coaching. It's their position.
But they also pretending they're teaching. You're not doing the right job, you know. Just pretension to make your ego like, you know, inflated, man.
Half an idea is never
correct. Right? But I actually have a question. Sorry, I have a really good question that I thought about it. I hope it's a good question. Well, no pressure here, but I thought about you two guys. Like, and look, when I was in the judo first jiu-jitsu, there was a time I was in a competition and I train a lot with athletes, like guys that are competing constantly. And so it's a very different regiment than training general public. I have this conversation with Anton a lot. I would like to know your view, Sam. Like, you came from like early sports, like competitive, like a little bit more serious.
High level
athletes. And I was just wondering, how you feel, do you just see a difference? Like, for example, what I found is that we push harder, we are more accountable, we can listen criticism, you know, in a different manner. We take
not be offended.
We take it as a constructive all the time. We want to improve, because so anything that someone can give any advice, we take it. You know what I mean? We put it. And the general public is a little bit different. You say them something, instead of they will think, oh, why he's saying that? Oh, he thinks they already put in like, no, I'm saying because I want you to improve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it comes back to competition. Like, for me, it's not that I was ever in competition with, you know, my brothers or everyone else around me. It's more you in competition with yourself. I just always wanted to be, you know, the best whatever I could be. Like whether it was soccer, football, you know, we rode horses and everything. You just wanted to be the best at like you could possibly be. So when I came into jiu-jitsu, obviously I'd come from like quite a competitive background where you are going up against someone all the time, and I never loved that. Like, that's what I don't like about rugby league and stuff. Like, I'm out there just trying to be the best I can be. But, you know, you got 13 other players that you're up against, so it is a competition. When I came into jiu-jitsu, I was just competing with myself. So there's no point me taking a backward step if someone, you know, says, you know, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're too spaz, you need to calm down, you know what I mean? So coming from a development like I had in competition, it's always just been a competition with myself in the end. So, I mean, that's how I approach jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah, I think that's look, everybody wants to win, everybody wants to do well in whatever they're doing, and I think the mental side of things is always something that's kind of overlooked. I try to talk about a lot to do with concepts in the techniques and also just the mental kind of approach to like you're saying about focusing on yourself rather than external things. Like when you focus on external things, it always leads you in a way that it's very chaotic, because you're not focusing on your own improvement. You're actually placing your fulfillment of improvement or whatever in something external that you have no control over. And when you do that, things go great. Like things happen. Sometimes you're going to be super happy because you beat that person or you did whatever you had set out to go do. And sometimes you're going to be super upset because the goal that you set wasn't achievable, or the person that you thought you were going to beat, you didn't beat, or whatever, right? And I also believe in what you're saying. Like if you can set internal goals or internal challenges, that's always going to be a much better way to approach whatever you're doing, right? And normally the type of goal people set is an external one. It's always like, I want to beat the instructor, I want to beat everybody in the class, I don't want to tap to all these people, blah blah blah, blah blah. But if you set like an internal goal, like, all right, I want to try one sweep, I want to try one submission, I want to blah 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 blah, which doesn't involve the other person at all, you just feel better about everything and better about training because you're actually improving. And that's the crazy thing. Like it's the mental component of being an athlete, or the mental component of being a competitor or whatever, or even just a human being, is something that most people don't ever dive into. Everyone always looks externally for whatever's going to make them better, whatever's going to fix their problem, whatever, oh, where is it? I'm looking for this thing. The problem is, it doesn't exist out there. It only exists here. So you have to actually be introspective most of the time to have any type of improvement. To have any goal setting and achieving, you need to look inward and go like, all right, what can I do? What do I need to do to focus on myself and improve myself rather than looking for it somewhere else?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the biggest accountability that people don't understand what accountability is like. But for you to improve anything in life, if you're thinking about your own progression, how you can do to get better, that's being accountable. People think about accountability, just think oh, it was my fault, sorry. That's just one part of accountability. But as soon as you go inwards and you think about, well, I'm trying to achieve this, or why, then you're gonna have a report of why it didn't happen. Then you can try next time and you can improve it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and that's the thing with external goals, and there's always an external excuse.
100%,
they were better than me that day.
I didn't train well.
Yeah. Whereas if it's internal and you're you might have a marker of oh, that was a really good roll against a really good person, but at the same time, it's well, what did I do right?
Yeah.
In my goals and in my role, rather than what did they do wrong? Yeah. Because the wins are yours, and also the losses are yours too. You have to own up to both.
And I think this is the difference in the perspective is true accountability is understanding that you're responsible for everything that happens in your life, no matter how horrible, no matter how catastrophic, no matter how disastrous, no matter how amazing and victorious. You're the one responsible to, you know what I mean? All right, maybe there's 5% outcome that you can't control, but the other 95%, that's all you, man.
Yeah.
That's all you as an individual. And I think people don't give themselves that power. What they choose to do instead is to relinquish all of that control and power and say, oh, it's something else. I put and it can be whatever. It could be, I put my power in God, I put my power in blah, 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 I put my power in being this and this and this, whatever. Most people pick certain ideologies, whatever. This is what I believe. I put all my responsibility on that belief, in this thing or whatever. And the problem with doing that is you remove all responsibility, but you also remove all responsibility of the good things.
Yeah, exactly.
And the bad things. The problem is you don't enjoy the good things as much anymore, and you don't learn from the bad things. And this is the problem with people's approach to most things, I believe. I might be wrong, but in my opinion, I think most people relinquish all their own responsibility and accountability to something external like you're talking about, and now they have no control over the outcome of their life, and then they sit there and complain and go, oh, you know what, I'm not improving. Well, who's the one in control of it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when you do take ownership of everything, that 5% that you can't control, you still control how you react to that 5%. How you behave, 100%. It's very minimal of things that are external causes of stuff, so you've got to learn to adapt and move with it as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important point to kind of highlight, because it's so common, and man, even me, to complain about certain things and be unhappy with things, but wait a second, who's the one that's in control of the things you're not happy with? Yeah.
Sam, you're like fairly strong person, like you're very, very strong, right? And what challenges, by being strong and rugby, there is that power element that's very important. And when you start jiu-jitsu, you didn't have much like technical skills, and what kind of challenge being strong in an initiation phase of your technical acquisitions of positions in jiu-jitsu, what did you face it that?
I really had to learn how to step back and take the little losses and not just use strength the whole time, because it was stopping me from learning the technical aspects. So when you use strength, especially coming in introduction as a white belt and that sort of stuff, you're sort of not learning the little sneaky ways and proper technique, when you can just power out of it. So you're not learning, one, how to defend, two, how they attacked you, that sort of thing, and then you go up against a high belt that your strength's not going to fix, and then you get rolled up and you're like, well,
this isn't working.
How did that happen? Like, I have no idea what had happened. I was too busy trying to use my strength to get out of it. And because you didn't learn those beginning phases, you can't see how they got to that phase where your strength doesn't matter anymore. So, it's like step 1, step 2, 3. You skipped all those and gone to step 3 without knowing the basics coming up. And then, of course, you only... I'm sure I annoyed the hell out of some people when I first started before I realised that strength isn't your best friend. There
was a few guys that actually cancelled their subscription.
But I'm sure, being here, 2.5 years now, I've experienced the same thing, and I'm like, that's exactly why I'm need to use less strength.
That's a normal kind of like learning avenue. Like it's normal to go to think, because man, that's your best attribute. Some people are super flexible and rely on that. Some people are very quick, and that's what they rely on. Like, if you have a look at most people that are at the gym, whether they're of a high level or a low level, most people gravitate towards their strongest attribute, and that's only natural. But the problem is you can't rely on that forever. And the thing that conquers all of the physical attributes is the knowledge and the understanding and application of the movements and the techniques and the postures.
But like this thing he said about stepping back, I think is very interesting, because I remember when I first had to paint something, like we're using a roller, like you think that, man, if I put pressure on the roller, that thing's gonna stay, and then I'm gonna smothering up, smothering down, right? And that's the opposite. You have to go light, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Start from the middle, so you're gonna cover as you go up and down. So if you don't step back and you keep trying to smothering, then you're not gonna get the best out of it at all.
No, and one thing for me is, like, I like to be nice and tight and really contract, because I feel safe. Instead of leaving that little bit of space where someone with more flexibility or with speed might get me in a bad position. So I was really into, maintaining a dominant position and working on there, grinding it out
being
from
on
there.
The top and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
do you think that comes from like the rugby aspect though, like the power idea? I think it does, because even with me, I believe that's the way it works.
Yeah, and like you want to be in that dominant position, or at least know that you're safe. If you want to have them close to you where you can't have an arm hang out or anything like that. They can't move quickly or
catch you off guard.
Exactly. So I found I'd sit in a lot of positions where I was just dominant and really tight, stuck to them like glue. And I think once I sort of started taking a backward step, now I'm a bit more game to sort of, disengage a bit, maybe try something where I'm going to end up in a bad position, but know that I'm safe enough and have the technicality to get back into a safe position. Yeah, but I didn't learn that until I started taking a step back.
Did you enjoy the judo stuff when you first were introduced to it? Like, did it like hit in your mind different? Like, for you to like decide that you want to do grappling later on?
Yeah. So the first introduction with judo was, we just did a couple of throws and stuff like that. But it was super interesting to me.
Was this the same gentleman that did the tackle tech stuff with the judo?
No. So this guy was an Olympian in judo. He's a cop out of Ipswich.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but he come in and we just did, I think it was 3 sessions over a week or whatever, and it just interested me. It just piqued my interest. It was like, that's really cool that me as a smaller person, because I was in school with some giants,
massive dudes, even at 16. 30,
well and truly over like 100 kilos. So it was cool to see a smaller guy be able to do that to a bigger person. And coming into rugby, I was like, I need that. And then when I got to do the tackle tech stuff with tackle tech. That was really interesting to me because it was even more technical. It was all about feet positioning, lowering your hips first.
A lot of like wrestling based ideas for taking
100%, and I think just because he came from the jiu-jitsu background and the rugby background where he could combine them together, it was just a little bit more technical and a little bit more specific to footy. That really piqued my interest. I really enjoyed the tackle tech stuff, and then obviously that was my strong point in playing as well.
After that stuff,
awesome. Coming after I retired was sort of a natural progression, I think.
I think that's something that gets most people interested in any type of martial arts. It's like seeing the smaller, weaker dude be able to handle, manipulate, control someone way bigger and way more powerful through skill. Through skill? Not through strength, not through power. The guy that's smaller can he can do that. I think that hits in people's brain, man.
100%.
Because like whether it was watching the UFC with Hoist Gracie or whether it was watching this guy do judo.
The more the little guy looks like a nerd, the better it is, man. Believe me.
If he looks less physically imposing,
the better it is.
Or the bigger fellas or the bigger guys that come into a gym and they train with a decent, skilled purple belt female and they go, what?
Yeah.
She choked me with her legs. What? What's going on? Like, it's just I believe that this is like a primal thing, and you recognize that. Wait a second, I cannot physically defend myself in a fight to the death situation, and I've got no idea. And even this guy who I should be able to beat because I'm bigger than, he probably would be able to take my life. Whatever. Like, it's like a primal thing that it clicks in your brain. And you go, what the hell? How is this possible? This goes against everything that I believe and understand. What? And then you just become addicted to this. Like,
you become addicted to this, but later on, there's a spark on it, like this chain of techniques, this beautiful game. You know what I mean? That is so tricks so much your brain. It's so amazing.
Personal expression of movement.
Yeah, 100%. And then, as you get in, you can just see it. Like the world just keeps opening up.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. It never ends.
If I'm someone that enjoys a puzzle and that sort of thing, the technical side of it. So when I sort of got in and here's a couple of basic moves and then another couple of basic moves that go off those basic moves, and all of a sudden you're looking at this massive tree of
I think one of the best feelings you have in jiu-jitsu is when you get a guy or the guy gets you, submits you, and there's the guy that gets submitted opens a big smile. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just got caught. He didn't know what happened, or he just perfect timing. That, I think, is the highlight of jiu-jitsu,
Yeah, 100%.
It's amazing. Or doing something that you're trying to do, you're pursuing, maybe like 10 times, you're already trying 10 different classes, and then you stick to it, and then suddenly works, and then you start lap dating, and then it's also an amazing feeling. Could be a sweep, could be a back take, but it's
It's I think one of the best moments I've had is like,
don't talk about your first kiss, mate.
No, we can talk about that next.
No, it was I was going for something and then they blocked it and I transferred to another one and then they blocked that, and then I connected the third one, and it was just like a little
light bulb moment.
Yeah, light bulb in my brain. I was like, well, that, you know, I've actually developed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and
connecting things. Yeah.
Yeah, when you connect like the 3 things. I mean, you can always go 1, no, that didn't work. 2, the third one for me was a real light bulb moment. It was like, well, I'm actually, you know, developing here as a
I think that's the hard thing for a lot of people initially too. Is like everybody thinks their first attempt's going to work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like in boxing, you the first punch you throw is going to knock the guy out. I mean, it's not realistic, but the way we explain it in the classes and the way we teach is, all right, you just do this, this, and this arm, oh, easy, great. I'm going there. Man, it's not that easy. No. Like it's like you said on another podcast. You said that Dean Lister, you know, has this in the quote in the book: "Jiu-jitsu is simple but not easy." You know what I mean? The idea is fairly simple, you know what I mean? Like, oh, put your legs here, squeeze the guy's arm, do this. But now that he's resisting, now that you're resisting him, it's not so easy.
No.
It's not so simple to actually achieve live. It's hard. So it becomes this, you know, game, you know, this struggle, this battle, right? And like the decision-making process, in my opinion, is always the most difficult. Yeah. Because it requires so much more in the moment reaction. You have to be aware of the thing happening right now, and like we talked about with Jim, is you can't force things to occur. The only thing you can do is do the maneuvers, create and facilitate reactions, and then capitalize on them as they present themselves. And if you try too hard, you miss the position. If you don't try hard enough, nothing happens. Yeah. So you have to be putting enough pressure on somebody else with movement to force them to move, and then through their reaction of movement, you have to notice in time when you should strike on the thing that's there. And that's a very difficult thing to do, because you have to be so present and so composed that you're not too aggressive and that you're not too passive. And that's a very hard balance to make, you know what I mean?
I think that about a crocodile watching a bird and the time he strikes and get the bird is that's what I think about it. Like when I compare this moment.
Absolutely. And what you did, you know what I mean? That's exactly what you did when you connected. Yeah. You attempted the thing, the guy reacted. He reacted and blocked and defended the thing, and then you reacted again. And you reacted again to some other attack. And then he defended and reacted in a way to block the attack again, and then you were able to transition again. But if you committed too much to the second attack, you wouldn't have got to the third one. If you didn't put enough pressure to force the guy to defend, you would never have got to the third one. It's just such a complex and interesting thing, you know what I mean? It's so vast and so big. Like,
and the whole keep it simple, or jiu-jitsu is simple but not easy. The keep it simple part is so true, because as you come, you know, doing it longer and you know more moves, it's knowing, you know, it's harder to know which move to do in which situation. So keeping it simple part to me is, you know, you start with the thing and then you just move on to the next one.
And also, in order to don't stop your train of thought, so if you have an attempt, like you put a trap and you had an attempt, and that attempt you have to leave and absolutely the moment feel fine with that didn't work. Otherwise, you struggle to think about the next chain.
Exactly.
It's like if you just
go, take a step back, like you were saying before.
Take a step back. Perfect.
And like you come from one, you got to just own that you miss it. Like you know, it comes back to that inner ownership. You know, it's not what they did; it's what you missed. And then so move on, go to the next one. Otherwise, you're going to get your ass, you know, rolled or
whatever they're going to pass or whatever. Absolutely. Yeah. Like just changing the subject a little bit as well. Like we always talk about like some funny stories and things like that as well. And like I don't know if you mentioned, but you do like marriage.
I'm a marriage celebrant.
So. You know, we talked to Tony about going to Brazil and stuff, and you know he's an Italian guy, only wants to eat pasta and stuff like that. He's one of the black belts here, if people listening not sure. And you know they always had like a bit of a battle with food. He wanted pasta, Eduardo wanted barbecue. There was always this problem. Do you have any like experiences or any like, you know, just funny stories or anything like that from the work that you've done before? Or
I mean,
because it's such an interesting job, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, and who expects like a young sort of tattered guy that to be a marriage celebrant. It's pretty strange.
Yeah.
I started out as a chippy.
Yeah.
And then just got this on the side to do families and friends. I just hated going to weddings, basically.
Is chippy is Australian slang or is it English slang?
A chippy is...
I know it's a carpenter.
Yeah.
But
I believe it's an Aussie slang term.
Okay, guys, so Chip is a carpenter. All right. By the way, we're getting all over the world. I was looking at our audience today. We're about 2 or 3 people behind Joe Rogan. So if you feel like subscribe, you guys go to the next level. We will know.
Yeah. Started out as a chippy and got this as a bit of a laugh, basically.
Yeah.
Hated going to weddings. I whinged so much. My wife was basically like, shut up and do something about it, offer something different. So I did it, got qualified, started doing just family and friends, snowballed into like friends of friends, Facebook and that sort of thing. And then a year and a half after I started, I went full time with it, which was just blew my mind. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things. I've had... Obviously, I'm a little bit different to a lot of other people, so I think people feel a lot more comfortable to add in their own personal aspects into their weddings and that sort of thing.
More customised, because it's not as straightforward.
Yeah, so I've seen things like, the groom will get up and read Metallica song lyrics as his vows and things like that. And then, people that walk out to all random songs like Blink-182, we've seen like all different sort of things. So I feel like they're just a lot more comfortable around me. Because
very interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of dynamic. But I'm glad that I can offer something and that it's quite popular.
So if anyone needs to get married at the gym, we know where to start.
Yeah, exactly. I'll wear the gi. I'll toss you both.
So did you in part of the work of a marriage celebrant, do you do the speeches like about the?
Yeah.
Are you able to? He needs a justice of peace or?
No.
You can do that part as well?
I do all the qualified stuff, so I do all the official marriage certificate and registration with the births, deaths and marriages and everything like that. Yeah.
So you can also, for example, if someone's going to get married and then they go, oh look, I already have this girl that's going to come dressed in Cinderella doing the vows, like, I want you to look after these other things, you know what I mean? All the logistics.
Yeah, so there's certain aspects of the ceremony that we have to, I have to be a part of. Basically, there's one little legal monitum at the start just about what marriage is in Australia and how I am a marriage celebrant. Making sure the couple understand what they're getting into, basically. And then for the vows, there's like certain words I have to say to make them legally binding, and then the paperwork I'd have to witness and sign as well.
I don't think anybody understands what they're getting into.
They should.
I think a lot of people do know what they're getting into. Like I remember, like friends, they go back to Brazil. And they go, "Are you married?" Oh, no, only in Australia.
Well, mine's in America, so recognised here though. That's the main.
Yeah. But I mean, look, this weddings always like 98% of the times involves alcohol. And that is already a predicament in really large quantities. Like that's a predicament to have like a fair few number of stories, funny stories. Like,
can you remember one? I'm usually out of there by that stage.
Oh yeah. That's smart.
I'm usually
Don't mix the business with pleasure, huh?
No, that's very smart.
Yeah, I'm usually I'll do the ceremony and hang around and help out with photos and grab my beers.
How about these guys? Like maybe the best man that they start drinking at 8 a.m. You probably got to a couple of them. They're like, why weddings happening? They're already gonna be like tipsy, gonna like bouncing to one side to the other.
I've certainly walked into a couple of groomsmen's parties and they've got the hip flasks in their pocket and they think they're being sneaky and all you can smell is whiskey.
As long as they didn't throw up during the vows or something.
Yeah, I've never had anything crazy like that. I mean, I'm sure
it's a matter of time.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But I'm sure the MC after that wedding would have had their hands full.
Yeah.
And here in Australia, is that a custom for the lady to throw the bouquet Like, and then they unite and there's a big brawl, like a gang fight to see who gets
all the single ladies trying to get
the bouquet. Sometimes old ladies want to get, it's just out of the blue and one breaks the heel and you see that happen?
Yeah, I've seen it a few times, yeah. But once again, I'm usually out of there when it comes to work. I'm out of there before that, Yeah, I don't hang around for the party too much.
Do you know where that custom comes from? Like the
I have no idea. No.
Could be from,
I've only seen it a few times just at weddings that I've been to as a guest or whatever.
Because like, do you do like a range of weddings, like in terms of culture as well? Have you been a part of any other cultured weddings?
Yeah, I've got a friend that she married an Iranian guy, and so we mixed in bits and pieces of their culture. We had the sofra table, so we had. That's the table with like different fruits to represent certain things. A few coins and like different things. Just
because that would be super interesting experience of culture because lots of different cultures have such different marriage
religions
customs.
And beliefs. Yeah, 100%.
No, but just the customs of what they
rituals
do. Rituals exactly. Like these people carry the women in like this. These people do this. These people do that. So interesting, man.
Yeah.
Well, the whole tying the knot thing comes from like.
Have you ever done any Fijian?
Who used to wrap the wrists?
I'm pretty sure it was like an English thing. They used to tie, and that would be then like your wedding cloth that you take home and as a sentimental thing. Yeah,
there's a lot of terms and sayings.
Tying the knot.
Yeah, sounds more traditional
together, basically. Yeah,
sounds more traditional as seafood chowder, but
exactly for the British.
I heard the Fijians they have pork on a spit, and the more wealthy.
I don't know if that's like a ritual. I think that's just something they like to eat.
No, but for the wedding, the more prestigious the family are, the more pork on spit.
The more pigs they have. But that's something that's probably true in history as well. The more food you had, the more wealthy and the more prestigious your family was and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The more sheep, the more cows, and people used to get married for this type of stuff. All right, if you marry me, we'll give you 10 chickens. If you do this, all right, you give me 4 cows. That's what they used to do.
Man, this is true story. When we used to go weddings or in Brazil, 15 years old for a girl is a big thing. So they ran this massive venue. They put scotch, they put everything, right? They have meals, proper meals,
sit down meals.
You choose fillets or blah blah blah. Super. They spend a lot of money.
Did you pick the salmon?
No. What we used to do, and weddings, this is a very common thing in Brazil. You have waiters for each section, and you have the tables. Where the guests stay in this table. Which table you stay in, blah blah blah. I've done this many times. Sometimes it's just you and your friends in the table. Sometimes a bit more family. But someone from the table will go up to the waitress. Hi, how are you? What's your name? No. And just shake a hand with a $50 note. And keep our cups always full, please. You know what I mean? Man. And then he just always scotch. And these guys go serve up to the top. You know what I mean? You leave the thing going, it's just insane, man.
Yeah. Weddings always seem to end up that sort of way. Especially in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, everyone turns into a bit of a glutton.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you haven't had to choke anybody or hip throw them at the wedding.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Can happen. Maybe even by request, like you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to do it wherever.
But I found that very interesting. You brought a very different perspective in my head. The fact that you are not what a person would think about a marriage celebrant, that will kind of cut their way of the freedom to kind of because it's their moment to say what they actually really wanted. You know what I mean? I think this is very interesting.
I'm all for them personalising the ceremony as much as possible. So I send through a 6-page questionnaire and it gets to know how they met, first date, what they did while getting to know each other, highlights and lowlights of their time together so far. So my ceremony that I end up saying on the day is basically their story. I like to keep it really light-hearted, so I'm pulling the piss out of them as they're telling their story and that, but it's not me standing up there saying what love is and what marriage is and blah blah blah. I mean, everyone has different views.
It's not a rehearsed kind of speech.
No, so it's just more of a storytelling thing from their side of things, and they can add as much personality and stuff that they want into it. So Yeah, I find it.
I've seen some crazy stuff though, man. I remember there was a TV show about like these weddings and stuff, and I remember like an ad for him when the guy like dressed up as Gollum. It's like, I'm bringing the ring. Like some people go absolutely insane with the type of stuff they do for their
haven't had that. I've had a couple of flower guys instead of flower girls.
Okay,
you get the guys that come down and they got their bum bags and they're throwing flower petals out and wearing a nice pretty flower crown, but. Yeah, no, nothing too hectic.
Is the food in a wedding like a very? Do people also have the demands, or is something very like a pub, like shit? Not a pub food in a wedding, not that, but like it's very the same routine. That's what I mean.
A lot of the times it'll be like an alternate drop. So your couple will have an option of getting a fish and a steak, or a chicken and a steak, and that sort of thing, and they'll just every second person will get the chicken. And every other person will get the steak. Yeah. But some go right over the top, and they might do like a platter of roast in the middle, and you can sort of help yourself, and then you get your like side salads and that as well. Some people do just a cocktail style wedding where they just like finger food.
I've been to this one. I was so disappointed, man, to be honest with you. And I was like expecting these, like fish, or I feel it and got like that patty pie, man. And I was like, oh man, that's a bit wrong.
Some people do their marriages like you're saying. They'll get married at the venue and do the reception. The reception after at the same place. But some people get married in like a church or whatever, and then go to another location.
So like a lot of the weddings I do are like off-site, whatever you say, not at the reception venue. Do a lot down like at Kangaroo Point there on the river. It's called River Life. You go down there, you just do the ceremony there, and then they can either do drinks and cocktail sort of nibbles there, or they might take off to another venue and have a big dinner set up and that sort of thing. So you see sort of like all different mixes, and that's like I'm all for it. Like I said, like I love to find out new experiences, new ways to do things. So seeing thousands of different ways that people do their wedding is a great part of the job.
Yeah, man, super interesting.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Yeah, man, and hopefully, when your brother comes back here from, Sydney or whatever, we can get him down and. Hopefully, like I always try. Like I offered to do a heap of that rugby coaching and wrestling and stuff like that with some schools and stuff that never hit me back or anything. But like I think it's a great avenue for guys like you're saying that even if they're a smaller dude or a smaller athlete, you're gonna add like another level to your game and stuff like that. Whether you're playing rugby, whether you're just like learning how to protect yourself, whatever. I think like the benefits of jiu-jitsu, grappling, martial arts in general, just like sky's the limit, man. And as long as you train like fairly safely, you're not going to get too injured. You're going to be pretty good, and it's a benefit in your life, man. So anybody that wants to do it, come down here or let me know. Hit us up, whatever.
Absolutely. Whatever. Yeah. A 4-year-old daughter that's about to turn 5.
Yeah, awesome.
Cannot wait to get to the
kids class. Yeah,
it's good on you.
Yeah, it's good for anybody. Man.
Guys, just giving a heads up to everyone. BJJ101 now is going to start got like 100 t-shirts like that one that Anthony is wearing, and we're gonna give away. So BJJ101 is giving away whoever sign up for a year will get a free t-shirt. It looks really nice. The back is also really cool. Yeah. There's gray and there's black, and once you finish, it's finished. All right.
That's pretty much it. But Sam, thanks so much for coming along and just sharing your story and sharing about, man, we had a very, very similar kind of athletic kind of process. Yeah, man, it's super interesting. Like the more people we talk to, it seems to be a very, very similar pattern of stuff. Like, did athletics early, had exposure to accountability, independence early on in life, and man, I don't know what it is, but that formula generally leads people to jiu-jitsu for some reason. I don't know why. And also generally leads people to just being more successful in whatever they're doing in life. And I think it's just 100%. Being exposed to, like you're saying, like that independence and the internal accountability and understanding that you're in control of the outcomes. And if you want what you want, you got to work for it. You got to work hard. You got to do the things that you need to do to get that. And
I think it's because jiu-jitsu keeps it real, man.
It does. It absolutely keeps it real.
Everyone's like,
there's no ego, there's no lies.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can tell yourself what you want, but on the mat every day, it's thrown in your face. So you can say whatever you want in the mirror. But yeah. Thanks so much for coming along and
thank you, Sam.
Sharing everything.
Capewell.
Hi. Capewell, yeah. and sharing everything about the marriage stuff and rugby and jiu-jitsu and everything. So thanks so much.
Thank you,
awesome
guys.
guest.
Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It was a great chat.
It was